everybody. It is Lee Milteer, and we have a fantastic program for you today. I'm going to put on my glasses so I can get all my information correct. So in a moment, what I'm going to do is introduce you to someone who can literally, I think, dramatically open your mind and life to a lot more abundance, only if you're ready. Now, I know this is a huge claim, but here's why I want to personally introduce this particular author. His name is Christian Mickelsen, and when you hear him speak, I believe you're going to truly appreciate why I asked him to join us. Simply put, our guest speaker literally shows people how to release their fears, their doubts, and limiting beliefs that are holding them back, and leaving them with things we all want, such as love, health, wealth, time, and success. Now, Christian is a #1 best-selling author of the book Get Clients Today. I know everybody wants to see that one. He's a self-made multi-millionaire. He's a business coach who started from nothing and has worked his way up to stardom in the coaching and personal growth world. He has shared the stage with people I know and work with, such as Tony Robbins. He has worked with Dan Millman and many other growth leaders in our world that you would know. His company is a great name. It's called Future Force Inc. And here's something very impressive. He's been listed as one of the top Inc. 5,000 fastest growing companies in America 4 years in a row. That's very impressive. Now, we're going to talk today about Christian and his latest book, a book that it was done by Hay House. And by the way, I know a lot about Hay House, and it's hard to get published there. And the book is called Abundance Unleashed, which the title itself is very attractive to all of us millionaires up there. So I'd like to welcome Christian.
Thank you. Super happy to be here.
And tell me where you are right now.
I live in Puerto Rico. And I'm in my house. Let's see, I don't know what else. You can't quite see. There's a nice, awesome backyard and pool out there. And there's my bed. Didn't make my bed today.
Okay, so you're originally from California, is that correct?
I'm originally from the Chicago suburbs, and I lived in California. I lived in San Diego for the last 16 years. And I just moved out here a couple months ago.
All right. Well, it's a great place. I've been there for vacation on numerous occasions, and to live there must be a lot of fun. But like everywhere else, there are ups and downs to everything.
Sure.
I have to tell you that when I got your books from Amazon, and I recommend the book very, very much, the very first page that I opened up to was a chapter called Success is Inevitable. And this is the first sentence I read. You said that becoming a millionaire wasn't a goal, it was a decision. And that if you want to be a millionaire, don't hope to be a millionaire, decide to be a millionaire. And literally, when I read this at random, I knew you're the perfect person for our business owners and on our entrepreneurs today. So give us a little bit about your background so people know more about you than what I just shared.
So, I mean, you laid it all out there. I mean, I grew up on welfare. And when I was a kid, I was wearing hand-me-down clothes from my brothers who were almost 10 years older than I was. So they would get clothes, wear it, and then it would go up in storage, and then it would come back down to me. And I was in 5th grade, and I was wearing bell-bottom jeans in the 80s. So bell-bottoms were cool in the 60s, maybe the 70s. They weren't cool in the 80s. And I was wearing this one day, and one of the most popular kids in school, he starts walking towards me as we're all like, standing around by the door to go out to recess. And he walks over and he looks down at my bell bottoms, and he takes his foot and he pushes the bottom of my bell bottom jeans, and he goes ding dong. And then all the kids laughed, and I felt humiliated, and the bell rang for recess. Everybody ran out, and then I stayed behind and went back into the bathroom. I didn't cry, but I felt like crying. And so I felt ashamed for being poor. And also, like a couple days later, this other kid in school, his name was Ron. And Ron got these brand new fruity smelling markers. Like not only were they different colors, but like you could smell it. And the red one smelled like strawberry, and the black one smelled like licorice, and the whatever, you know? And so, and this was like breakthrough technology for me when I was in 5th grade. And what I noticed was all the kids wanted to be his best friend, and they wanted to borrow his markers. So in my mind, okay, being poor is something to be ashamed of. You get picked on. Having money, having toys, having things, then everybody likes you. This is what I linked up in my mind, you know, as a 10-year-old. Fast forward through, as I became an adult, I was constantly worrying about money, and just thinking, okay, once I make a certain amount, once I have a certain amount in the bank, finally I'll stop worrying about money. But once those things happened, I found I was still worrying about money, and I didn't know why. And eventually I figured it out and realized that all of our fears are fears of feelings. Everything we're afraid of, we're not afraid of a situation, we're afraid of the feelings that situation would elicit within us. And so I started thinking about, what am I so afraid of? Why am I so afraid about money? And I realized that I was afraid to feel the shame I felt as a kid, as an adult. Like if I didn't have money, then people wouldn't like me, people wouldn't respect me, people wouldn't love me, people, you know, all that stuff. That's my childhood, and eventually I got into having my own business. Struggled for years, you know, as many people do. It was really tough in the early days, but eventually cracked the code, got my business rocking, and like you said, you know, my company made the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing companies for the last 4 years in a row.
That's extremely impressive because there is some common denominator about having a tough childhood that makes us want to grow more than having just been spoon-fed prosperity from the moment you were born. So I can totally relate to that, and a lot of people on our call today can relate to that. So what really attracted me to you, Christian, and you know this because I wrote to you, is somehow we got connected on Facebook, you know, through the ages, but we really weren't connected in the sense of we didn't really know each other like most of our Facebook friends.
Right.
But you had this incredible, authentic posting that just made me stop in my tracks. And I'm just going to read a couple of lines of it, then I'm going to let you take over. But this is how the Facebook started. In the last 6 months, I've had a really tough time. My wife kicked me out of the house. My business stalled. I got sued for the first time in my life. A decade-long friend sabotaged my business, and my longest team member embezzled over $50,000. From the outside, most people think my life is amazing. I make great money. I get to do what I love for a living. I set my own hours, and I usually work part-time. I get to travel all over the world and take a lot of vacations. And I'm friends with lots of people who are of great influence and famous. I guess that's pretty amazing a lot of the time, but like everyone else, it's not all sunshine and roses. So this is what I've been dealing with. So this is really what I want to talk about first. Since life is not all sunshine and roses, how well said, let's just talk about thing by thing that you were dealing with. What happened, what was hard about it, what you learned about it, and literally, as you say in your book, because we're going to loop back into the book, what was the gift of it? So let's start with the embezzlement.
Yeah. Somebody who'd been on my team for a long time. Stole $55,000, a little over $55,000, and over the course of a year. She'd been on the team for like 10 years. She was a good team member. She'd reliable. I trusted her implicitly. In fact, I was making some structural changes to the business since I was moving to Puerto Rico, and I was thinking about, like, you know, who I most trusted in the business, and the top 2 people, she was one of those top 2. And it was literally like that, a day or 2 before having this conversation with a business attorney on my team about some of these legal shifts that we were making. And then like a day or so later, like maybe the very next day, all of a sudden we discovered this, and it was like mind blown. It basically felt like a bomb got dropped on the whole business, because we had to immediately let her go. We had to scramble to lock her out of everything that she had access to, because she was like the IT manager person on our team. Basically, she was in charge of everything. She had access to the server, the emails, thankfully, it wasn't even worse, because really she could have potentially gotten my bank password, had it reset, sent to the email, gotten the email. Like, she could have done way even more than she did. But once we find out what she did, and honestly, there's possibility that she even did more than we're even aware of. But once we found out what happened, we had to lock her out of everything. And then it was like, how do we tell the rest of the team? Because we have a very close knit. I mean, we're a virtual company, so people live all over the world that are on our team. But our leadership team, we get together quarterly in person. We're on Zoom meetings all the time. It's a close knit family. And then realizing that happened, and so many of us, it was like, well, maybe we could, we could forgive her and she could work it off, and she could, it's like, well, we can't trust her. And then she has access to stuff. So what could we even let her do? And honestly, so 6 months later, we just had another in-person team meeting last week, and came up again. Like, it was a big thing. Like, things, life is hard for humans. I mean, that's the reality. We feel like, once you're rich, or once you're famous, or once you're whatever, then it's like, there's no more problems and everything is great. And life can be great even when you're poor, right? People think, it's poor people. It's so, and I just went on a charity trip to Guatemala in a remote village. And like, those people are happy, right? They maybe don't have access to clean running water, and what I mean? But they can be happy anyway. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't want to make their life better, or they don't want to make their life better, or that it's not a good idea to keep striving to make our lives better. But there's no formula for eternal happiness. Maybe enlightenment. I don't know. Maybe there's a few people who achieve that, but I don't know if I ever will. And certainly we can't bank on that. And definitely being rich doesn't mean you no longer have problems, or that nothing phases you anymore. So it was tough. Yeah, that was the embezzlement. It was really hard on my team. They felt betrayed. I felt really sad for her that she would get in that situation. I felt bad. Like, how could she not just come to me if she was in trouble or whatever? And yeah, so that was tough for sure.
So there was something interesting that you wrote in there. I have it in front of me. You said, on top of this, the house that I use, that you apparently you had your personal house, and then you had a house close by that you used as an office, that got broken into and robbed 3 times over that time frame that she was embezzling.
Yeah.
And you said they stole far less than she stole, but you said, I think the universe was trying to tell me something like, pay attention, you're being robbed.
Yeah.
Talk about that a little bit, because I call those red flags, and there's so much crap that goes on every day in a business owner's life that sometimes we're just oblivious to signs around us. So just comment on that.
I mean, I'm super tuned into my intuition. Like, I tune into the source, and I want to be guided by God, and I want to be following my intuition. That's how I live. And so that made it even more like, how did I miss this? Right? How did I miss the signs? And then being robbed, and I have the house broken into. So I have 2 houses in San Diego on the same street. One we lived in, one I used for the office. They're on the market right now. One's under contract, so that's good. But so it got robbed 3 times. And partly I think it might have been like, hey, pay attention to what's going on here. And I think it also might have been like the universe saying, get out, here's a reason to go somewhere else. So anyway, and I definitely feel super safe out here. It is safe in Puerto Rico, especially the part where I live.
So part of your, so we're talking about a time frame where it just all this bad stuff happens. So so I know you don't want to go in details about a longtime friend, but they sabotaged your business during the same time period.
Yeah. I'm going to give you details that aren't in the email, or that aren't in that Facebook post, and I haven't shared publicly anywhere yet. First incident happened when I was launching Abundance Unleashed. So that was, we were doing this, orchestrating a big launch for the book. And he's somebody who could have helped promote the book. And I was really surprised that he didn't. And we were part of a group where we all support each other's launches and make sure that we don't overlap each other's promotions. So, so that even if he isn't going to help me promote me, he would want to make sure that he wasn't launching his thing at the same time, so that we're not diluting each other's efforts. And this group had been together for about 2 years. We actually met in person. We had the whole calendar laid out, and he knew when my book launch was. And then he secretly went to all of our partners in common who were going to help promote the launch, recruited them to promote something he had going on, and didn't tell me about it. And then all of a sudden I see it happening at the same time as my book launch. And I'm like, what the heck are you doing? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? And that's the whole purpose of our group, is so we don't step on each other's toes. And now you're doing it, and you did it secretly, but it was a violation of trust and all kinds of things. So that was the first one. And it actually broke up our whole group. And after we're doing all this forgiveness work and saying, okay, I'll let it go. Maybe it was a mistake, whatever. Said, Larry, let's keep the friendship, heal the friendship, all this stuff. Then he had another promotion coming up, and which I was after that happened, I was like, oh, heck no, I'm not promoting that. And then finally, after all this work I did, I was like, all right, all our friends in common saying, come on, I decided I'd promote it. So I promoted his launch, and I won his launch. So I won the launch. His number one partner now. And then right before my next big product launch I had coming up, he secretly launched a competitive program 3 weeks before my launch. His program's half the price. And he again lied about it to me, told me that we were going to be promoting a different program completely. And then meanwhile, everyone else was promoting that for him. It was a nightmare. And so that was the savage. And then afterwards, I could look back at that relationship and just see how really there were all sorts of other things that he was doing that were kind of, that were attempting to undermine me in other ways. So that was that one.
So one of the things that, the way that you phrased it, and you also talk about it in your book, Abundance Unleashed, is, with every bad thing, there's a gift. Now, It's really sometimes in the middle of everything hard to see the gift, but what were the two gifts of the two things we've just talked about the person embezzling and then the enemy who was pretending to be a friend?
Yeah, the frenemy. So this team member would be instrumental, hugely important for the launch. And so we had to let her go. So she's gone. Now we got to fill this big hole. But yeah, the team really came together and rallied. So that was a big thing. We were able to find somebody to step up and take her place, who's done an even better job than she was doing. So, a lot of times you think somebody's amazing, and they are, and you think, wow, I could never replace them. But sometimes you find somebody and they're even better. So that was a win. And then another gift of it too is just I need to tune in even more to the universe. If I'm being robbed physically, I'm being robbed, embezzled and robbed, maybe there's some other things going on. Maybe my energy is being robbed in some way too, which actually leads me to the whole frenemy thing. I think the gift I got from that was really just waking up to I don't need that crap in my life. I try to see the best in everybody. I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. You know, I'm a very gentle, kind, loving soul, right? So I'm just like, probably maybe a little too pacifist, you know, and in a situation like that, maybe I probably should have been tougher sooner. So that's a lesson I didn't write in there, but that's one of them. The other part of it is I felt like there was a part of me that realized the whole time he was like this, and that I was trying to not see it.
Yes.
Like I was complicit in the whole scenario. And while I was mad, I was really mad. I was mad at him. I was mad at all the friends in common that were like saying, oh, you know, give him another chance if you do this. Like, you know, I'm like, I kept this thing that the first time it happened, I kept it completely secret. I didn't gossip about it. I didn't tell anybody about it. And I was like, so nobody's going to know about it. But one of our friends in common was like, yeah, but you're a leader in the industry. And if you're no longer promoting him, people are going to see that and wonder why and all this stuff. And I was like, all right, you know, so, but I knew. And so I was mad at my friends. I was mad at him. And ultimately I was really mad at myself. And it just stirred up so much anger. You know, I grew up a lot of anger, violence in my house. And so in my mind, I was like, anger bad. And I really was like, don't let yourself be angry, because anger turns to violence and I don't want to hurt anybody. And anger doesn't have to turn to violence, right? But that's how I had linked in my head. So I was like so suppressing all this anger. And honestly, I just had to like release it. I had to heal it. I had to accept it. I had to accept that I'm an angry person. You know, that I have anger in me, just like everybody.
Okay, the other thing that happened, and we're gonna speed this up a little faster so I can ask you more questions actually in your book, but you got sued by a client in your high-end program because she said she wasn't happy with the results of the program. So what was hard about that?
Oh my God. Well, so first, I care about my clients. I want them to be successful. You know, I want to do everything I can to help them succeed. I feel like I created the most powerful program to help somebody be successful that you could possibly create. One-on-one coaching, masterminds, online training programs, live events,
books,
marketing labs. I mean, they get to work with my marketing team on a weekly call if they want, you know. Like there's so much, right? And of course, nobody's guaranteed to be successful. You got to do the work, you know, and some of it was timing. She was trying to, I probably shouldn't even reveal some of this stuff just because it's still pending, but her target market is teachers. And so she was trying to launch her program in the summer, and I'm like, and it didn't go well. And I'm like, and she gave up. And I'm like, well, that's just timing. Like teachers are not paying attention to this stuff. So that was part of it. And then she joined the program. We did something just like mind blowing. So we raised the price of the program after she joined. We raised the price up. And then because we raised the price up, we decided to give people some extra time in the program. And just to make, you know, as a reason to get more people to make it easier for people to justify paying the higher price. They're going to get more time. And so we offered it once with a little bit extra time, and it went really well. But then I just decided, you know what, I'm going to give everybody a whole extra year. So even the people who joined only expecting a year, I gave them a whole second year, even though they didn't pay as much as the other people were paying more, all this stuff. So I'm paying for her to get coaching for 2 years, like all this stuff, events, masterminds, meals, activities, all this stuff's going on. And then I found out she was struggling later, and I was like, look, let's just hop on the phone. Let me help you. She just seemed like, of course, she was going to have a lot of success in the program, and found out she wasn't. So I gave her extra time. And then, of course, then all of a sudden she's suing me for the program. I'm like, what? You know, ultimately, some people are going to be unhappy. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. But it made me look at everything better. And honestly, it made me feel really good about our program. It made me feel a level of pride in what we offer. that just feels to me second to none. I mean, I'm in a lot of masterminds, and they're great. I think masterminds are amazing, but I've never sat, I don't know, none of them include all the stuff that we do. So I feel really good about that. And now I've never been, I was afraid, like, oh gosh, it's scary, lawsuit. Now, I have a team of lawyers and, they're on it. And we feel really good that there's practically zero chance that she'll win the lawsuit. I'm not so afraid of it anymore, this legal stuff. And yeah, it's kind of, you have a little confidence about it, like at least not a fear about it anymore.
Well, the reason I wanted to just go over with some of these, and you have a lot more, but because we want to talk about the book, we're going to just move on. But what I really liked about this, Christian, was the fact that you analyzed the situation. You looked at how you were part of the deal in every way, where the holes were and everything. And then you looked at what was the gift that that this experience gave me. That the average person obviously goes right into anger, bitterness, retaliation, holding on and being a victim forever. And you cannot have abundance in your life if you hold on to those negative attitudes. So in your book, actually in chapter 1, it's called Thank God We're Rich. I want to talk about that because very few people say that, and in our culture today, particularly in our crazy culture today, it's like being rich is looked down upon unless you're, an entrepreneur or a business owner. So let's talk about the importance of thinking, thank God I'm rich.
I grew up feeling poor, hand-me-down clothes. Another really tough experience for me was in school. If our parents didn't have money for lunch, then we could stand in a lunch line and get a free lunch. Basically, we were all lining up, and it's like, there's the poor kids lining up for the free lunches. And so all that stuff, I just felt so much shame for being poor. And but rich is really a comparison game. It's rich compared to who? I have this super awesome, nice big house here in Puerto Rico, in the richest part of Puerto Rico, and in this little community, which is one of the richer communities in this part of Puerto Rico. But I have the smallest house. It's like, oh, I'm rich, but like I'm not as rich as them. But even when I was poor, I was actually richer than like the richest kings in the world 200 years ago. 200 years ago, there was no running water. I mean, even 100 years ago, this is getting close. But I read a post, I read a list of things that 100 years ago didn't even exist. And most of these, some of them are on the cusp, but like a refrigerator, electricity, laundry, washing machine, dryer, microwave, internet, smartphone, air conditioning, heating system other than like a fireplace. Like none of that stuff existed 100-ish years ago, but definitely 200 years ago. So like the richest people in the world, yeah, you could have a fire burning when it's cold, and you could have servants, fanning you off when it's hot, but there's no air conditioning, no indoor plumbing, no, like grocery stores. Like the fact that you can go to a grocery store and there's food from all over the world, roads, cars, like we are so rich. Even like the poorest people in America these days, I mean, certainly homeless, but even homeless people most homeless people even have smartphones, But if you aren't homeless, even if you're poor, but you're not homeless, like having a roof over your head, air conditioning, internet, like we have access to so much that we're all rich. And I was rich back then. Here's something funny. So I started making so much money. It's like, I'm going to hire a personal chef. I hired myself a personal chef that'll cook anything that we want. Now, when I was a kid, I was poor. We would get food from the food pantry, and it would always have like lots of boxes of mac and cheese, cans of stuff. Everything's canned, and so things that aren't perishable. And so I was, you know, my mom would be out working or whatever, and I have to cook dinner for myself. My brothers had moved out of state. My older sister, sometimes it was the two of us, and sometimes she was out with her friends. And so we'd be cooking dinner. It was like mac and cheese every night, mac and cheese. And I liked mac and cheese as a kid until I hated mac and cheese as a kid, because it was all I could make. It's the only thing, like one of the very few things I could make. So I grew to hate mac and cheese. Now, flash forward, we have a chef that'll cook anything that our heart desires. I've got three little kids, and my daughter is like, what do they want this chef to cook for them every night? They're like, mac and cheese, mac and cheese. I'm like, you know, like my kids, you know, for me, growing up, because my parents weren't in the house much, it's like I could watch as much TV as I wanted, you know? My kids, they would love my life. If they could go back and have unlimited TV and unlimited mac and cheese, they would love that. You know, so I think, but here's the thing. If you think you're poor or you think you're middle class, like that's an identity that is not empowering. And years ago, I was in Sedona masterminding with some of my friends, and one of them was talking about like saying, you know, it's a good thing I'm rich, or thank God I'm rich, like really owning that identity. And I just started thinking, I'm going to take that on, because even though I was like, I'm rich, but I'm like, is it weird to say it? And I just started saying it, like, oh, it's a good thing I'm rich. Thank God I'm rich, you know? I remember I bought these giant crystals at a crystal shop, and they were trying to do it with my credit card and not somehow, I don't know why, but they were trying to not charge me sales tax in Arizona. And I don't know why, but they're like, well, you know, if you're paying with the credit card, then it's going to force it to you're going to have to pay the taxes on it. And I'm like, well, how much is it? And they're like, oh, it's going to be like $400 or $500. And I'm like, well, it's a good thing I'm rich. You know, thank God I'm rich. And everybody's like, what? Like nobody, like it's such a mind-bending way to think, but thinking that way made me start feeling a lot more confident, strong, and started attracting more money into my life.
I really like that. Thank God I'm rich. Ever since I read your book, we have little signs around the house now, like on the refrigerator and the bathroom mirror, and it's saying, thank God I'm rich. And the truth is, everything that you said, I mean, we have to, every once in a while, I have a relatively new house I built about 4 years ago. And I think about the kings and the queens of, 500 years ago. And I actually think on a regular basis, I live better than the queens. I live better than Cleopatra
Sure.
because I don't have a personal chef, by the way, but I don't have 3 kids either. But I mean, I live in this, opulent, beautiful house that, by the way, the electricity went out last night and I have an automatic generator. So, instantly in 12 seconds, my generator comes on, so I don't miss a lick. I mean, we could watch TV during the bad storm and nobody else had power. So thank God I'm rich. Everybody should adapt that. They should be saying it. You don't have to say it out loud to everybody, but you need to be thinking that when you're writing that check to pay your bills or your taxes or things. So another question I had for you, it's in chapter 7 in your book. It's called Rock, Taffy, and Water. And you talk about the best secrets for being more persuasive and be a better influencer in the world. So if you want to change your life to get rich, do what you love for a living, lose weight, get healthy, find love, improve your sex life, connect with spirits, deepen your connection to God, or make other changes you want, you need to loosen up. So let's talk about that.
Nice. Yeah. Well, so I was leading one of my high-end masterminds a couple of years ago, and I just was thinking, okay, like I want to help them get more customers. I want to help them get more clients. I want to help them, like, what could I teach them that would make the biggest influence in them being able to get more clients and customers? And as I started looking, like, what's the lens behind, you could try a sales tactic, or you could say a thing, or you could overcome an objection or whatever. And those things are great. It's great to learn all that stuff. But like, what's the mindset way back, that would help them be more persuasive? And it was really to think about how to think of people in a different way, to think of themselves in a different way, to think of life in a different way. Because there are 3 kinds of people in the world. There's people who live like rock, people who live like taffy, and people who live like water. And so, you know, people who live in the world of rock, it's like, no, this is just the way it is. You know, this is the way people are. This is never going to change. You know, and so it's like, if you want to achieve success, oh, you'll never get there. You know, people like us will never amount to anything. You know, it's like almost being born with a caste system, which is crazy because in the US we're not, but yet some people see themselves that way. They might see themselves poor. They say, right, that's all part of it. Seeing yourself a certain way, that it's a fixed thing, that this is just the way it is, this is the way it's always been, this is the way it's always going to be, and there's nothing we can do about it. That's the rock mentality. That's the rock mindset. Then the taffy mindset, the taffy people are like, oh, you know, people can change. Yeah, you know, I could end up making a lot of money, but oh God, it would just be so hard. It would take so long. I don't even know if it really will ever pay off, but it's possible, right? So it's a step up from rock. It's a really big step. It's a really big step, but it's still not where you want to be, because the world of taffy is slow. It's still challenging, but possible. But then the world of water is where, you know, change is going to happen, and it happens fast, and change is happening constantly, whether we like it or not. If you're in the world of water, like, things can change fast. People can change fast. People can change their minds quickly. We can grow fast. We can overcome our fears and doubts quickly. And you don't want to be in that place. You want to just be in this place of water where you're just in the flow and you're tuned in to the rhythm of life and the energy between you and other people. That's where you want to be living.
Okay, Christian, you just said something that was very profound, something about attachment to, you know, being attached. So let's really talk about that, because it is my experience that if I get too attached to things, I become kind of blind to other solutions.
For sure.
And you talk a lot about that in your book, about giving up attachment. And I don't think a lot of people quite understand that. They think, well, if I give up my attachment to that goal, I won't really do all I could do to get there.
Right. Yeah. Well, there's a million different things that are going to motivate us to want to achieve things, right? We might want to become a millionaire so that we can, you know, feed lots of hungry people all over the world, right? So that might be like a very high level, where altruistic reason why we want to get rich. And then at the very bottom, maybe it's like, I want to get rich because I want to get back at my dad who said I would never amount to anything. Like, you know what? So people think, oh, well, this is good. This is a good reason to want to be rich, and this is a bad reason to want to. There's no wrong reasons to want to be rich. So I was like, I wanted to be rich. I wanted to have money, but I had this secret fear that if I didn't get rich, if I didn't have money, then people would look down on me, and I'd have all this shame. So I was attached to making it happen. Like, I got to make it happen. So you want to be hungry for it. Like, you know, the fun of it, or even the, like, you know, proving somebody else wrong is okay. It's okay to have those things in there. But if it's like, oh, if I don't get it, then my life is going to be bad. That's where you feel that attachment, and you can heal that. In the book, there's a process called the peace process, which I believe you can use to make peace with anything. So you can make peace. I used it to make peace about all those things that we talked about: being embezzled, sabotaged, sued, right? Now, just because I'm at peace about it doesn't mean that, you know, I wasn't affected by it. I certainly felt all the emotions of it, and, you know, certainly would have preferred that those things didn't happen if I could have avoided them. But I'm not like all, you know, twisted up inside about them, right? And so that's what happens is when we get attached to something, it's like, oh, I want that sale. Like, this great client, if this incredible client would just end up working with me, then, because they're famous, maybe, like, oh, if I get this famous client, then everybody would hire me in my business. I'd never have to worry about marketing again. And it's like, and I'm on the phone, and here I'm talking to this famous person, and maybe they'll hire me and maybe they won't. It's like, oh my God, I need it. That neediness pushes things away. It pushes things away. So what we got to do is we got to let go of that neediness. We got to heal that neediness. We can still have the desire for that famous client, and we could desire it for our own, you know, because, like, hey, that would help my business. We could desire it because it'd be like, oh my gosh, she would be so fun to work with. But yeah, if we have that neediness, it pushes things away.
So if you get the book, which I highly recommend, there is some really good surveys in here so you can kind of find out where you are on different parts of your life. There's a time abundance assessment, a love abundance assessment, health abundance assessment, wealth abundance assessment. And so you can, really figure out where you were. So just really briefly, could you go over the peace process? I know they'll get more if they read the entire book,
Yeah.
but give people a little bit of hint on how to do that. Because um, I work on this all the time because there's a lot of things that happen in my life or happened in my past. I don't want to carry that energy forward. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
So I love this process that you give, and the fact that you can give this to business people and they're not thinking it's, too far out there. I mean, we are business people, you and I,
Yeah.
and both of us use processes like this. So
Yeah.
listen up, folks. This is very important.
Great. The first thing is, I would say we have actually a website with resources on how to do the peace process at peaceprocessnow.com. So they can go there and get lots of great stuff. Step-by-step instructions, video of me taking them through the peace process so they can, as if I'm there guiding them through it, and other resources too. So they're gonna wanna go to peaceprocessnow.com. How the peace process works is that, we are biologically hardwired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. This is how our species survived, right? This is how we survive. Like fire hot, yikes. Don't go walking around, don't go rolling around in a bonfire, right? That would be bad for you. Food tastes good, makes you feel good. Like that's good. Even sex, right? That not only does it feel good, but it keeps our species alive, right? We didn't have that. So we seek pleasure, we avoid pain. Now, when it comes to emotions, however, if we follow that same recipe, it can lead to problems. Because when we feel shame or fear or guilt or regret or whatever those, quote unquote, negative emotions are, when we feel those feelings, we usually want to avoid those feelings. And so we'll usually stuff them down inside of us, That experience when I was in 5th grade and Everett was ringing the bell on my bell-bottom jeans, it was like so overwhelmingly, I felt so ashamed. I was like, stuffed it down. You don't do it consciously. It happens unconsciously. And then what do? We we'll distract ourselves with some beer, or if you're fancy, you do it with wine, or chocolate or cake or sugar or food or internet or porn or whatever the thing is, drugs, right? People, most of the reasons why people are addicted to stuff, it's not so much the thing being addictive, it's because they don't want to feel all this yucky stuff. Like, this feels good and it distracts me from this that feels bad. So the peace process it's like the opposite. Instead of stuffing the stuff down, we take the lid off and we let ourselves actually feel all the worst feeling, whatever those feelings are. Shame, fear, guilt, anger, right? Whatever it is, instead of bottling it up and stuffing it down and making it wrong, we invite it to be fully felt. And so the peace process works like this. You think of the thing that upsets you, or think of the thing that you're afraid of, right? Maybe you're afraid of public speaking. And so you imagine public speaking, and when you think about it, it's like, oh my God, I feel all this stuff right here. And you just find where that feeling is, and you just be present to it. And you just put your attention on the most intense part. And you just let yourself feel the energy of the feeling. And sometimes it'll move it around, and maybe it'll go up to your throat or down to your stomach or split up into little bits or whatever. But if you just keep staying present to it, this too shall pass. And it's like oil in an oil candle, and your presence is the flame. You never know how much oil's in the candle, but it's guaranteed that if you give it presence, it will burn out. It will run its course. And most things can resolve in a matter of minutes. Sometimes in seconds, sometimes in hours. I've had a few really big things that I've had to work on over time, that have taken months of not months at a time, but over the course of many months, I'll have to really sit with it and spend some time with it. But that's very rare. It's 90% of the things are going to get resolved in a matter of minutes just using the peace process. Super healing.
And the point of this is to get neutral, right?
Yeah. So now if you feel needy, like, oh my gosh, I want this thing, but I'm like, oh, I'm so, right? You can let that go. You can let go of the neediness. You can let go of the attachment. You can let go of the fear. You can let go of the anger about the past. You know, if you got stuff in your childhood that you've never been able to let go of, somebody you've never been able to forgive, and you're not trying to forgive them for them, you're trying to forgive them for yourself. Like, you may even know that intellectually. This is the thing. It's like, for me, like, I started studying personal growth when I was 12. Like, I got started in this early, and I studied so much stuff, but until I got this whole peace process and this other technique called instant miracle technique, until I started using those techniques, it was like I knew it up here, but I didn't know it in here. And until you really know it in here, you haven't really made the change, right? I could know, yes, I should forgive them, but have I actually forgiven them? And it's not I should know, yeah, I don't want to forgive them for them. I want to forgive them for me, right? That's the whole idea that, like, forgiveness is like, or anger, it's like holding on to a hot coal, trying to, holding on to resentment or anger about somebody that hurt you. It's like holding on to a whole hot coal, hoping they're going to get burned, but you're the one that feels the burn. And so we know that, like, yes, letting go, forgiveness. Yes, I should do that. But, like, but can you do it? And this is how to do it. This is how to forgive. This is how to let go. This is how to surrender. I believe that surrender is the ultimate life skill. When you can peace process, heal, when you can let these things go, that's how, so many people, like the post that you mentioned, it's like, it did feel a little raw to post that. It was a little scary to post all this stuff. My wife kicking me out of the house. But I live a real life. I'm a real person. And even though I have these tools, doesn't mean that I'm permanently happy. Nothing ever makes me upset. No, it's like the shit happens, and then I work through the shit, and then you find the gifts.
And by the way, just for everybody to know, the wife did bring him back into the house, into the new house. Okay, so we're out of time. In conclusion, tell everybody how they can find you and buy, and they should invest in your book, Abundance Unleashed.
Abundance Unleashed, yeah. They can order it on Amazon. We actually have a place where they can get it for free. If they want to get it from us for free, they just cover shipping. And it's myabundancebook.com, so they can get the book for free. They just cover shipping. Amazon's faster, frankly. So if you want it fast, just get it from Amazon. But you're welcome to get it from us. Happy to buy it, right? I felt like the most abundant thing we could do about the book, it's called Abundance Unleashed, is give it away for free. So we're happy to give away copies for free. Just cover shipping. And then also that peaceprocessnow.com, you're going to want to go there. Free resources there. And then if anybody is interested in, if you're a coach or consultant or whatever, and you want to learn how to get clients, I'll give everybody a free copy of that book at getclientstodaybook.com. Getclientstodaybook.com. So free at peaceprocessnow.com, free at getclientstodaybook.com, and free at myabundancebook.com. All free resources for your people. And I hope you check it out. I hope you get, dive in, check it, read it, study it. Lots of great stuff for you. I'm happy to be of service to you and your peeps.
Well, thank you very much, Christian. This has been fun. It's been really great to have someone really get so raw and authentic about their real problems, because as you well know, because both of us know a lot of very famous coaches, that they really do try sometimes to put on this, that, my life is perfect and nothing goes wrong, because what I teach is so wonderful, there are no repercussions in my life. And as much as I would love for that to be true, it's certainly not true, that all of us who teach actually, we actually sometimes have a lot more problems than everybody else, because our job is to learn how to handle them and then share them with other people, how to handle them. So thank you very much for interrupting your beautiful life there in your new paradise. And we wish you nothing but the best in every endeavor that you have. And thank you very much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, this is Milteer. So we're going to call it a wrap and see you soon. Bye-bye.